Ha! Victoria 2. I've been playing this game since September or October of 2014, and although my Steam profile probably says I've put like between 100 to 200 hours in it, that's not true because 95% of the time I've played this game it was offline, so I wouldn't be surprised if I have between 1,000 to 2,000 hours in this game. I love this game. I am addicted to it. It's one of my favorite games probably of all time. I've done so many playthroughs on YouTube over the last 3 years plus, and of course remember I got 3 of them ongoing right now. But as all games, even though I might like it very, very, very much, there are some flaws with it that I wish could be fixed, either by some mod, which some of the things I have listed have been alleviated somewhat in some mods. Now I just need to replicate them and combine them like all into one eventually, which I have been working on like the last month or so in my spare time I have to like make my own mod. Or preferably, if Victoria 3 was ever made, I would like to have these things added in. So what are my main problems with the game? Well, okay, I actually decided to load up my off-screen Two Sicilies game, which became Italy now, because this was the last multiplayer game I did like a month or so ago. I was able to keep on playing off-screen as single player, and that's how we got like a French Turkey, which one of the people who were playing France took over. So anyways, I actually wrote down, I think, all the things I would love to have either as a mod or as Victoria 3. First off, the one thing I don't like is, in the factories, as I load up the factories page, when I go to like foreign investment, or if I did maybe any of my countries too, but I'll go to foreign investment. Here we go, like for example, Argentina. When I press on this, of course, it expands the factories, but as you see down here, let me show you a better example. Let's see, I need to find someone really, really big in order to illustrate my point. Here we go. I think Turkey's big enough. Yeah, Turkey is big enough. I mean, look at this. So anyways, if I wanted to upgrade the factories to help increase my influence in an industry score, I would have to press on to upgrade them. So yeah, you see I do that, but as you see, I mean, look how big, how many factories I do. Turkey takes, that's so many, and that's just Turkey alone. I've done this usually with like Russia if they fall secondary power, France, Italy if they never became secondary power, I mean, I'm great power, Japan, China and all them. I mean, this just takes too long to go through one by one by one. Now, there are buttons to do, as you see. If I hit Control-click, it'll upgrade all factories of the same type that are near, like, high employment. Or I can hit Shift-click, and it'll upgrade all the factories that are within the employment level. Which is good and all, but it's just not everyone. I need a button that just does everything. Like, if I hit Shift-click, it does everyone. Now, I actually have a fix for this, because I actually know in the mod, define files, where I actually could change it so where it's 0 employment requirements, so I actually can upgrade all the factories. Now, the problem is, when I do that, it also includes factories that are, closed, which Turkey doesn't have, so I would actually get technically a double investment. 1 to open up the factory and 2 to upgrade it. So it's kind of flawed, but it's like the only thing I got so far. And of course, if I ever did multiplayer again, I probably would have to change it again, which is very, very annoying. So that's one thing I would like. I would like to be able to upgrade like all the factories in another country like that. Not go through all of them one by one. Not like, oh, upgrade either some of the same factory or all of them, but only within the employment level. I want to be able to do all of them all in one go, because that helps me in terms of my industry score, which you can see in this game, my industry score, as I throw a shit ton of money everywhere, by and large. Now, the next thing I list up, this is a problem more on the Sir Light mod, which is almost a non-existent problem with any other mod, but it involves the militancy. Now, of course, militancy just rises throughout the decades and shit. And of course, later on in the game, you have to deal with communists and fascist rebellions a lot of times. Oh my god, I remember so many games where I had millions of them each. That was annoying. And of course, I got the nationalists trying to revolt and stuff like that. But the one thing I don't get is, later on in the game, it's like militancy and conscience can never go down, from at least in my experience. They never go down, even if I set the taxes to nothing or as low as possible, so they're getting all their needs met. As you can see right here, the Italians are getting their needs met. I have no tariff. The tariff's off right now. I have social spend. I have everything like maxed out. And if I go into the reforms, now I don't have all the reforms, but like for my example, off the top of my head, my Scandinavia game on the Starlight mod, I have everything on here all done. All the reforms done. I have the taxes like set as low as possible, the tariff as low as possible. Yet, and we're a democracy, yet the rebels don't go away. Maybe there needs to be a thing where if the, people are getting their luxury needs and their everyday needs, there probably should be a gigantic, massive militancy lowering. Because at that point again, when you're getting your needs met and you got all the reforms you should be happy and not want to revolt whatsoever. Now, of course, I know the political groups and the nationalists, I'm sure they're never going to be appeased, but at least everyone else, if you're getting your needs met and you got all the reforms you want, you should be content and no more revolts. Alright, so next up, here's something I've wanted for a long time, and no mod's ever been able to do this yet, and I can't figure out yet how to do it myself, and that's involving immigration. As of course, if I go to, let's see, go on one here. Now, of course, normally you have the immigration national focus, but it's outside of North America, the Americas and Australia, it's useless. Because as you all know, if you didn't know, historically, of course, just like in the game, the Americas, Australia, New Zealand, all of them, they all have massive immigration boosts because they're new world. So their population is going to swell later on, especially Americas. But for Europe and all of them, their population, people, even if you give them what they want, the reforms, they immigrate out like crazy to the Americas. It's like, there's like nothing you could do about that. There should be a national focus on here that could do basically the same thing as the Americas. Gives us that immigration boost if we need it, especially if you're like a really, really small populated country, because that really does make a difference. And there also should be a thing to also encourage massive migration, like African colonies, for example, in order to encourage assimilation and be able to make cores on them. And there should also be, there are some mods that have this, an immigration national focus that encourages people to leave these areas, and there should be one and it should be also to massively encourage them to leave to go to other places or maybe in the other colonies. So that's what I want. I want a national focus or something that will give me the same amount of power as the Americas get at immigrating, and migrating everywhere. To compensate, especially for smaller countries, they need that population boost. Alright. Here's next one is the influence points. This is one I don't really understand. It's really annoying too because I have a massive difficult time influencing countries, especially some like Persia if I'm playing Turkey, the German states if I'm playing Prussia or Austria, Italy if I'm playing, I'm trying to form Italy if I'm two Sicilies or Sardinia and all that crap. When I go to like influence, like I press on Persia right here, as you see right here, it shows how many points I get a day from my influence. I get neighborhood and sphere member, huh? I guess maybe Turkey, perhaps? Because I think, no, they're not allied. Then who the fuck would it be? Not Kalat, not Punjab, not Russia. Wait, no. Okay, Naj. Okay, so apparently when you're sphere, so you get a sphere and bonus. I didn't know about that. That's something brand new I didn't even know about. But then here's the one thing I don't get about the nation on another continent. Now, when it came to my game, for example, when I played my Ottoman Empire game I did 3 years ago, when I spent almost the entire game trying to conquer, sphere Persia, I didn't finally sphere them until the 1920s, almost near the end of the game. Like, no matter what, I couldn't influence them. And the one thing I don't get is, how am I considered, if I'm playing Turkey, how am I considered on a different continent from Persia when I'm literally border them. Now I'm sure they're probably referring to the capital, which of course, in Istanbul, of course, is in Europe, so I guess that's what they're going by. But even so, we're border them. It should not matter. Now, of course, there is a neighbor bonus for influence. That's pretty good. And when I actually load up the game earlier as Turkey to see what happened if I tried to influence Persia, it showed them basically a wash. They got a 50% penalty from being in a different continent, but they also got 50% bonus for being neighborhood, but it's a wash. But I think if you are neighbor to them, the different continent should be completely removed. If you're neighbored, that's all that matters. It shouldn't matter where you're at. If the British are, the British should be able to influence everywhere. Like in North America, if they have Canada, South America, if they have this right here, parts of Africa, if they have that, India, they should be able to influence all them right around there, Australia and all of them. It shouldn't matter if they're in Europe. If they're neighbor to them, it should negate it. And I have no idea if that's even possible to fix or not. Alright, next one. This one involves the military. This one kind of annoys me a lot. It involves the navies. Two different things, too. One, first off, as you know, is the navies, the ships that you make, don't count to your entire army. It's only the capital ships, which are the heavy ships. I think that's bullshit. Every single ship you have should count towards your military power. That's how real life works. I'm sure you don't count a country's navy in real life by, how many big ships they have. Let's ignore their smaller ships. No. Every part of the ship counts towards their navy, which of course counts towards the military. So every ship should count in some form to the military, not just the capital ships. But more to the point, the navy makes the military power way, way too biased and inflated in that one area. There's no reason, like, if I'm, like, playing Italy or Japan or anyone, if I make, like, a giant navy, I literally could be the #1 power easily just because I have a very huge navy. And I don't think that's right because our navy, by and large, really does not have a factor in war. It's our land army that has a massive influence in the war. Most times, if I'm using my navy, it's either to blockade or transport troops around. It's not like I do much fighting with it whatsoever, especially as Italy. So, it should be flipped around. Like, let's see, 142 soldiers, I get 142 points on my military score from the soldiers, 157 from capital ships, so they're almost even, but it should be massively inflated towards the army, not towards the ships. Oh boy, also the smaller ships should count towards the score as well. And of course, I have no idea if that's even fixable or not. All right, next up is a lot of problem I'm sure a lot of us have when it comes to colonizing, and this is something that I don't think is even possible. It might be possible to fix if I go into the fines, but it's kind of annoying. Now, for example, let me show this. Where's it at? Civilization ranking. As you can see, let me show this first. As you see, I got all of Italian Africa right here. Oh, here, a better example. Out here in China, because I got this part of China is Italy. As you see, I got all this China right here, but when I cook it over, they're a colony because Japan is still... Okay, they're civilized now, but when I took these over, they were still uncivilized. Now, they're a colony. Now, I can't build factories in them and shit like that because they're a colony. In order to build factories in them, you need to turn it into a state. How do you turn it into a state? You have to have 1% of that state's population be bureaucrats of your culture. So, in order to turn any of these into state, they need to have 1% of their population being bureaucratic North or South Italian. Now, the problem is, a place like China, they're so populated. I mean, look at this province right here. 1.2 million people almost. There is no way feasibly in this game, especially this late with like less than 4 years remaining, that I'm going to get that population needed to turn to a state. So this is going to be a colony for the rest of the game. And that's bullshit. There's got to be a way to be able to make you turn to a state sooner. Maybe make it wait like a few years or something like that after you colonize. take them over or whatever or something, but there's no reason why it should take this long to colonize this, turn this into a state, because this would be a massive economic boon for my industry if I could build factories here because of the population and the resources, but since they're a protectorate, a colony, I can't do that. And that's not fair. It's ridiculous. So yeah, there should be a way to make it easier, for whatever reason. Maybe make it so it doesn't require 1%, maybe just bureaucrats, although that might make it too easy or whatever, or maybe make it like a time limit after a few years and then you could just do it or whatever, but something's got to change. The current way it's being done is just not good. Alright, now this one probably I'm gonna probably get a lot of pushback on for, because it might make it too easy for war, or it could also cause you a bunch of problems if you're involved in a really big war. But one of the big things involved in war is the war score. And let's see, I don't think there's a war going on right now. Okay, there is, but of course Persia, it's just started, so nothing's going on right here. But in the game, you get a war score tick every time you get involved in a battle, or taking over territory of something. When something good or bad happens, you lose or gain war score. Now, one thing is a major influence at getting war score, especially if you're attacking someone like China per se, very early on, is battle bonus. When you win battles, especially if they're very lopsided, you will get a massive war bonus. And you can get up to 50 points off of winning battles alone. That's halfway to 100%, which is very, very devastatingly good. Now, I actually think it should go even higher. I think it honestly should go up to 100% even, because I mean, think of it. Like, one example I thought of, like, if I'm playing Russia or Prussia or Austria in the area too, and let's say if I have like an Eastern War going on, like around the Polish area, let's say if I'm playing Prussia and attack Russia, when they keep coming in, and let's say if I'm just keep destroying them over and over and over and over again, the war score should keep going up, because eventually, I mean, that's kind of realistic. Like, if they keep throwing men after men after men in a battle, and they keep losing and losing and losing, eventually I would think they would just give up, because especially since their whole entire army would be by and large destroyed by end. So I think the war battle bonus should go all the way up to 100% if need be. And of course people would be like, well, if you did that, then you wouldn't be able to necessarily conquer any territory. You just gotta win a bunch of battles and that's it. But hey, I just think that's more better off and more realistic, and a lot easier in a lot of ways too. And of course it'll be harder too, because if you lose a whole bunch of battles, it'll hurt you too. Alright, next up, this is something that's on EU4, but it's not really at all in Victoria 2, unless maybe some specific events or maybe some mods I don't know about. I think you should be able to change your primary culture around, and also your religion too. Now, what I mean by is, of course, each country has their primary culture. Like, Italy, for example, is primary culture is North Italian. Well, actually, it's Italy, so it could be both North and South Italian. I gotta find Italy on the map. It's not gonna be easy. Let's see. I got an idea. Let's go look at Russia, for example. Of course, Russia, its primary culture is Russian. Secondary, accepted culture is Belarusian, Ukrainian, and I don't know what that other culture is. And then everyone else is not accepted. Now, let's see. I gotta think of a better example. Something where I'm like the mind. Hey, let me go check my population. Maybe it'll show better. Like here, for example. The most populated nationalities in my country are half of my country almost is Chinese, basically. Only 14% are Italian, and in total, slightly over 25% of my country is Italian, so there's majority Chinese, technically. And let's say, for example, the population continues to explode like that in that regard. I think it should be possible to, like, say, change the culture to be, like, majority Chinese. And people start turning to Chinese in, like, in all the other provinces, which is possible in EU4. And, of course, by animal religion, which I'll get to later on, because there's another thing about religion. But I think we should be able to change our culture however we please. Especially when one culture is like the majority compared to our primary culture. And of course it takes forever for them to change, if ever, so that's another thing too. The culture should be able to change. That's the end of it. And I also accept their culture. You should be able to promote and demote accepted in primary cultures like you can do in EU4. That's what I'm trying to say, if anyone knows what I'm talking about. Alright, next up is religion. Religion should have some power in it, like EU4. Like, maybe try and convert provinces to be your religion or something like that. But by and large in Victoria 2, religion plays no factor. Almost none. I think there's some events where it actually does work on some religious crap like militancy or events or something like that. Very few things that religion is actually affected by, but by and large, it has no effect whatsoever, whereas religion in EU4 has a major part of the game, and religion should have some part in it too, along with being able to change your religion too. Alright, next up is democracies. Now, of course, like America, for example, they're a democracy, and they're a true democracy in the game. You can't change the party of whatever the people pick. So when they pick the Republican Party right now, they can't change that till the next election, which is another year or so. Now, in Europe, for example, most democracies, if they form, are either HM governments or Prussian constitutionalism. But they're democracies, but they're not true democracies where you can pick your own government, even if that's not what the people vote for. That's good in that regard, but that's not good for the game, because the democracies are the ones that get the massive immigration boost. Now, there are some, I think it was, if you're like a monarchy or whatever, and Jacobin rebels break out, and if they succeed in a revolution, then you might be able to form a democracy like in Europe, for example, but by and large, it's almost impossible to say, form a democracy like America in Europe. And there should be a way to do that. You should be able to just form a democracy, simple as like that. Especially since you can get the immigration boost possibly, too. And then, here's another one. I'm sure everyone can agree with this one. And that's the, when it comes to, like, war goals and stuff. Especially, like, the election. Like, during the election, most of the games, when you do it, you get, like, pop-ups for, like, a debate on what you're going to ask and what you want will influence, like, the people's, how they're going to vote in, like, a province or whatever. But the main one that I'm sure all of us think about is the jingoism one, where if you answer the pro-jingoism question, your population will get a massive 10% boost in jingoism support, which usually is enough to add a war goal, which, of course, if you're playing the Infamy mod like I'm doing, especially if I'm doing my Spain Infamy mod playthrough, which I've been playing earlier today, you understand that when you want to add more add more stuff to your war, and you know you can get it and afford it, but you can't get enough jingoism support to be able to do that. There should be either two things. One, which I'm adding right now, is maybe the jingoism requirement should not be there. Maybe the requirement to add war goals should be if the war is going good enough. If you hit like a certain threshold, you can add an extra war goal. Like if you hit like 25% of your way, add another one, and 50% or whatever. Another thing I would like to is to get rid of the 100 war score limit, but that's another topic. But another thing too would be, if we're going to keep the jingoism thing for the elections, we should have some way to influence it to make it happen more. Because in my Spain Infamy mod playthrough, it's not popping up, and I need it to pop up. In fact, in the last like 10 plus videos I've filmed, it's only popped up one time, and I think I've had 10 elections during that time. It won't pop up when I need it, and I need some way to pop it up besides doing the console commands, which I'm not going to do in a playthrough. So either get rid of the jingoism requirement, make it where you need like a war goal requirement instead, well, not war goal, like war score limit requirement instead, or make it so we can influence the election much more. Now, next up is the cores. Unlike in EU4 where it's very easy to get cores, it's almost impossible in Victoria 2. The only way you can get cores outside of events is conquer a territory, wait numerous decades for the people to come in and populate to your culture, and then you can get a core pop-up, event to pop up to give you a core. Now, that's ridiculous in one guard. Because a lot of ways, it takes forever, and if a place like China, for example, that will never pop up because the population will not become Italian enough, for example. That's ridiculous. And then, once you gain them in the game, they don't go away. Very, 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 very rarely, like in certain events, they'll go away. But like in EU4, you could fabricate a claim on a province. You have that claim for 20-something years, And if you go to war and take it, you get it. And if you hold that territory for a while, that country will lose a claim on it. If you conquer them completely or whatever, after 150 years, they'll lose it completely and never get back. They have to get it back the hard way and stuff. And likewise for you too. People can fabricate claims on you and take them over and all that crap. There's got to be some way to make it easy for us to get cores on them. And, or make it easier to get them. And also, we should be, and also they should be losable. Not just like certain events. No, they should be losable. Like if I say, let's say I played, I'm trying to think of someone off the top of my head. Oh, here we go. Let's say I'm playing Italy, of course. And let's say France attacks me and I guess maybe takes over like Nice, which I think they have a, no, they have a core right there. I think they have a core, no, that's weird. They don't have a core right there. But let's say they take over this. They probably should get a core like immediately since they have high French culture there. If I don't get that back very soon, I should lose it. I should just simply lose it. And likewise, if I attack them again, take over some of this, they should eventually lose that too after a while, after a few years. It should be like it is in EU4. And I'm sure there isn't a console command for me to make the event pop up to give a core, but every time I do it, the game crashes for me, so I can't use it. Alright, and finally, the last thing I've thought of, I just added this before I began filming 2, is I want, and this is done EU4, but I doubt it's possible to do it on Victoria 2 unless you did some major mod to the game, but we should be able to take over provinces and not just full states. Like that's how it is in EU4, where you can take over certain provinces and stuff like that. Like say if I wanted to attack Egypt for Sinai to get Suez Canal built eventually, why can't I just take Suez? Because that's all I need. I don't need all of this. I just need this right here. And of course, if you did that, that could also be like a war justification where you could just take a single province. And of course, now the problem would be, how are you going to determine how long it will take? Which I'm sure will be short if it's like one province you're trying to take over. And how much infamy would it be? Because it's not like EU4 where like you're not infamy, but your aggressive expansion and stuff like that. It's fluid. It depends on the province itself. Here it's set by default. So we would have to think of some way for it to be set like that. I mean, we had to think of a set base requirement for infamy for taking over a province, and then we had to figure out how to add up right there. But yeah, you should be able to take over a single province, and that's it. And of course, that should be an extra war goal requirement if you want to take over more. And honestly, maybe allow the extra provinces to be like more for free instead of wasting a whole bunch of infamy, or well, not infamy, but war score requirements. Like I said earlier, maybe have like a war score requirement before you can add an extra goal. Maybe you should have that be exempt so you can add as many of them as you want, as long as you can afford the infamy or whatever. But provinces should be allowed to just take each a piece at a time. Especially if you're in a war, like if you're losing like in EU4, if you can't take over a whole bunch of provinces like you used to, but you could maybe take some provinces or whatever, you should be able to just do that. So yeah, that's all the things I could think off the top of my head I think that I would want either in Victoria 3 or a Victoria 2 mod that is either not made yet or is made and I just don't know about it. I want to be able to invest all the factories in one go with a single button. I want militancy to be drastically lowered for nationalists and political groups when they're getting their needs met. It should be going down dramatically. I want a national focus to dramatically increase immigration, and migration. I want better influences on things. I want to have better control over influence. Like if we're neighbor with someone, any out of continent penalties should be completely gone. Navies should not be overpowered, and they should also all count towards your military power. States should be able to be made easier. Battle scores should go up to 100% possibly. Culture and religion should be able to change and be promoted or demoted, and religion should have more of a sway into the game. It should be easier to form democracies in the game, actual democracies like in America in the game, not HM's government or Prussian constitutionalism. Elections either need to have more input for the debates, or they need to allow get rid of the jingoism requirement for war goals and make it like a war score. Cores need to be easier to get, and they should be allowed to lose them after a while, possibly. And provinces should be able to take over Signal instead. That's all the things that I can think off the top of my head that I think would make either a better Victoria 3 or a awesome Victoria 2 mod. Hopefully I or someone else can eventually make one day. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and who knows, maybe I missed something. I'll probably add in the comments, or maybe you guys have some thoughts of what you think would make the game better. Hope you enjoyed.